This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now. Here's VOCM Open Line host Patty Daly.
Well, good morning, gentle listeners. Linda Swain in for Patty Daly today, who is off. Well, I think a lot of people woke up this morning anticipating whether or not there'd be a postal strike. Well, it's not a work stoppage per se, but the threat of a full-out postal strike continues to loom. So we're kind of in a limbo right now. Union members are working to rule instead, which is a form of strike action. In other words, there won't be working any overtime hours, which could result in delays in delivery because the system requires a certain level of overtime to keep it hopping. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers says it's still not clear how that form of strike action may evolve, so they're not ruling out the possibility of a full-on work stoppage. However, at this time, there are no rotating strikes or national work stoppage. In other words, they're leaving the door open for further strike action. Canada Post, of course, this week provided its members with a new offer earlier this week, offering an increase that amounts to 13.59% compounded over the next 4 years, which to, I think, most people's ears sounds fabulous. However, the workers were seeking 19% to make up for increases in the cost of living. Canada Post increased its wage offer for current employees with increases of 6% in year 1, 3% in year 2, 2% in year 3, and 2% in year 4. The company says it will also create stable and predictable part-time jobs for those looking for flexible work, which was a big concession from them, from what it appears, because that was one of the sticking points in this dispute. That will include health and pension benefits and scheduled and guaranteed hours. The company, he says, it will also create. Your thoughts on the labor dispute? Do you think the two sides, who until now have been very far apart and appear to be a little bit closer, will they reach a new collective agreement? Will a deal be made? I'd like to hear what you have to say about that and what the impact of a postal strike might have on you. I think the last postal strike forced a lot of people to take alternatives that they hadn't really, contemplated previously. A lot of people went electronically with their bills and those kinds of things. People who hadn't made the switch until then suddenly are doing it digitally. So my question is, what kind of an impact does it have on you? It does have a significant impact, I should say, on small business in particular, which relies on Canada Post to get its services and goods to its customers and get its supplies in. So I'd like to hear from people on the postal dispute and what it means to them. Well, the Supreme Court of Newfoundland has ruled in favor of the Roman Catholic Church in a dispute with over ownership of its church in Portugal Coast South. That's down in and around Trepassey. The Roman Catholic Episcopal Corporation of St. John's has sold off dozens of properties to settle sex abuse claims and tried to do so on the Southern Avalon, but area residents claimed ownership of the church and put padlocks on the doors. They felt very passionately about that and said, no way, we own this church. Essentially, over the years, residents argue that they paid for the renovations to keep the church viable. They've been doing the maintenance on the building, so in their opinion, it's theirs. Because the amount of money that they've pumped into it as a community far exceeds the amount that the building is actually worth. And they've been passionate about keeping that building as an active church, even putting locks on the doors and preventing potential buyers from gaining access to it. Well, I'd like to hear from members of the local heritage committee, which was formed to fight this movement, see what they have to say about that. If you have any thoughts, you're you're also welcome to give us a call. The province is expanding access to continuous glucose monitoring to include all type 1 diabetics in the province. That's approximately 4,600 people. Newfoundland and Labrador, as you know, has some of the highest rates of diabetes in the country, the vast majority of whom are type 2 diabetics. Those are people who develop diabetics over the course of a lifetime as opposed to are born with it or develop it as a young person. So the question is, will the costs and the headaches associated with diabetes maintenance, will those costs be met by government at some point? Well, the door is open. The program will eventually, according to government, be expanded to further include type 2 diabetics whose disease has progressed to the point where they require continuous glucose monitoring. And that's a little device that you wear on your body. It sends messages to your phone and lets you know if you're going up, if you're going down, and and will alert you if you happen to be asleep when that happens, that kind of thing. So I'd like to hear what people have to say about that. What are the costs associated with diabetes care? How is it impacting your life? How much does it cost you to maintain your diabetes? What would you like to see to help alleviate the costs? And do we do enough when it comes to prevention? If you have any thoughts on that, you're certainly welcome to give us a call. Well, the spring sitting of the legislature wrapped up yesterday. MHAs dispersed back to their districts, and the fall sitting is expected to look very different in terms of makeup and the people who are sitting in those seats. A fall election, of course, is expected. Many MHAs not seeking re-election as those. And of those again who are running again, it's hard to say what the eventual makeup will be. Will they win their districts? Will they lose them? Well, it will all come, of course, on the heels of a federal election, a hotly contested one. And a municipal election is coming in early October. Are you prepared to head back to the polls? Let us know what you have to say about that. This is curious. I've been thinking about this for a long time because being in a newsroom, you follow the news that's been happening over not just the course of a week or a month or whatever the case may be, but over years and years and years. And my question is, what specifically is the difficulty being faced when it comes to the recruitment of physicians and healthcare professionals in central Newfoundland? If you recall, it was the central region that drove the astronomical amount of money paid by the people of Newfoundland and Labrador for agency or so-called travel nurses. As of 2023, figures released by each of the provincial health authorities before they amalgamated into one showed that $32.6 million was spent on travel agency nurses. And the breakdown is stark. $5.2 million was spent in the Eastern Health Region, $7.7 million in Western Healthcare Region, $3.5 million in Labrador-Grenfell Health, which is an area arguably that might be more difficult to recruit for. But $16.2 million was spent in central Newfoundland on travel agency nurses as of 2023, according to government's own statistics. More than double the other individual health zones. Now we learn that the chief of family medicine in the Central Zone only spends about 4 days a month in the province and actually lives elsewhere. So what are the barriers there? When you think about Central Newfoundland, it's not remote. It's not far-flung. You think about Gander and Grand Falls, Windsor in particular, both vital, modern communities with plenty of amenities and opportunities. They're also centrally located enough to allow for commuting to areas like Twillingate or Springdale, which are also lovely communities, by the way. So it's curious, what is the barrier there? And this is something that's been going on for a very long time. So if there's anybody in the central Newfoundland region who wants to weigh in on that, they're certainly welcome to do so. We asked NLHS about some of those barriers, and basically they said, there are barriers and that you have to be a little bit creative when it comes to recruiting for certain areas. But why Central Newfoundland in particular? It's very odd to me, as someone who was born in Gander and lived there for many years. So if you have any thoughts on that, I'm certainly welcome to give us a call. Well, a big development in the hockey world last night. The Toronto Maple Leafs issued a release indicating that they have parted ways with team president Brendan Shanahan. He's been turfed, of course, after the failure to reach a Stanley Cup. How many years is it now, Brian? Since 1967.
I don't remember that year as a child, but I was 7 years old. I started watching hockey the next year, and I know everything the next year, but I just can't recall that 1967 year.
Well, I mean, it's almost fair to say that Newfoundland and Labrador is divided between Habs fans and Maple Leafs fans. And, of course, the Maple Leafs fans disappointed year after year after year. You can see the frustration. I was watching the game. They were taking off their jerseys and throwing it on the ice. People were leaving in disgust in the second period of that final game. What is the barrier here?
Oh boy, that is the question. I don't think anyone is surprised that Brendan Shanahan is going to move on. It's been 11 years, and, the early years he seemed to have just about everything went his way when he started building the Maple Leafs after the disastrous, say the last year, Phil Kessler, when they just laid an egg. They were out of every game by, halfway through the first period before they started the rebuild. They got the first pick overall. They got Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and then he wanted Mike Babcock as coach, got Mike Babcock as coach. Everything just fell into place, and they had a very, very good team. Always at the top of the standings, a threat to go all the way, but they just never seemed to get there. I'm going to take you back about 4 years, I think it was. It was during the COVID playoff year. So the Leafs are up 3-1 in Montreal. Should have easily disposed of the Habs. Habs came back, win a game, win another game, and then in Game 7, win it. I think the final score there's 3-1, last hurrah for Carey Price. And Montreal went on to the final. But the Leafs should have won that. So you're up 3-1 against Montreal, and Montreal, a totally inferior team. But after that series, this is why I'm going back to that period, Linda. After that series, Shanahan was right there, front and center, and said, we lacked the killer instinct. Well, just look back on what has happened since. What do they lack?
Is the problem that core four?
Well, it's both the problem and the solution, right? Do you dispose of? Do you just try to? Let's just say, what if they had gone out and gotten a Corey Perry? Now, you want to talk about a guy with a killer instinct, still doing it at whatever, I think he's 39 or 40 now. Edmonton Oilers, I took a bad penalty the other night, but still, Corey Perry, if you want to talk about a player with killer instinct, boy, there is one. Should they maybe have, kept the core there and then gone out for that one little intangible? Go back to Nazem Kadri. They got rid of the heart. He was the heart and soul of the team. Yeah, he made some bad decisions during that Boston series there. Bad penalty, which cost Toronto the series, really. And
he had some personal issues that he was working through as well.
But you talk about, of course, he went on to win a cup. How many Leafs from, this squad, let's say, over the last 10, 11 years, the Shanahan years? Tyler Bozak, how many went on to win a Stanley Cup after Toronto got rid? Well, Nazem Kadri did. And, maybe you can look back to something like that. It might not be the total solution, like, say, let's get rid of the core four, start all over, or let's keep the core four and maybe try to get another high-price free agent. I don't know which way to go. It might be something as simple as just getting a player with the killer instinct to push them over the top when they do hit that Game 7. Because I don't understand how a team with that much talent can lay an egg in Game 5, play a perfect game in Game 6, and then lay another egg in Game 7. Keep in mind now, you got a guy, Craig Berube, behind the bench there. He's already won a Stanley Cup with St. Louis. Took them from last straight to the top. And I don't know if you can have a better coach than Craig Berube. So the problem is not there. It's not behind the bench. It is an on-ice problem.
Well, this is a conversation that's been had over many a kitchen table and on every couch, no doubt. Brian Medore, thanks.
Right, you are.
We'll come back right after the break. We have a number of people waiting in the lines. Looking forward to your call. And we're back. Linda Swain in for Patty Daly. We're going to start the show this morning with Trevor Parsons. Hello, Trevor.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad.
What's on your mind this morning?
I want to talk about the wildfire that happened on the 7th of May. As we all know, a lot of houses was burnt. It was like 15 houses and 40 structures gone. And the premier, like, no word on what's going on. Like, he said he was going to help in some way. He said he did say a comment in one of his news briefs that Port of Ass was helped out, and this would be no different. And we haven't heard a word since my parents lost their home, and they almost lost their lives. And there's a good many more that lost their homes, and a good many that never had insurance. And the relief line, my sister was called Patty Daly last week. Was talking to Patty, and he gave her the relief line and that disaster relief line that's out, and she after calling it, and all it is, take your number, we'll get back to you. And she's after doing everything. There's no one getting back. There's no one talking just to say if what's going to happen, if there's going to be any relief fund for Adams Cove. I mean, he was down talking to the fire department and the mayor and talking about the cell phones and that. Yes, we do need cell phones. We've needed it for a long while down there, and it never did get upgraded. But we just want to know, like, Premier, are you going to give us an announcement on what's going to happen? Or, you said you helped out Port of Ass. Are you going to help out Adams Cove? Like, this is something that people got on their minds. Are we left in the dark or what?
I have to say that there appears to be a very stark difference in approaches here, because last year, if you recall, there was wildfires that were encroaching and threatening areas like Churchill Falls and Labrador West, and I know there's a lot of infrastructure there as well, but people were evacuated. It appeared to be like an immediate action. This one, I'm not sure what happened here, but I visited the area in recent weeks and drove through, and I have to say, as soon as I crested the hill there in Broad Cove, and you can see Adams Cove from that area, my mouth came open and I sucked in my breath, and all I could utter was, oh my God. As far as the eye could see, the hills and the ground and the trees going inland and right to the coast were blackened and gone. And all you could see was these little postage stamps of areas where I can only presume that somebody had a water hose out just hosing down the lawn so it wouldn't catch. But it was just, I couldn't believe the level of destruction.
Well, 8 homes on our street burned, and I mean, our road don't look the same. It is not the same. The whole town don't look the same. It's black, and I mean, it's going to take years for this to ever get back to where it was. And I mean, there was a lot of homes gone, and he did say in a comment that the Port of Ass, when Fiona hit, this will be no different. Now, I don't know if that was just a mumble. Like, please do, Premier, speak out and let us know what's going on. Like, we need to know, right? Like, there's a lot of people in wonder here. What's going to happen? Like, is there going to be any help? Or, there's people out there with no homes, right?
So what is your family doing right now?
My family now is staying with my sister She was out there at the time when the fire happened, and only for that she was there. She helps them out, like literally stays there week on week, home care. And if she wasn't there that day, my mom and dad would have died in that house fire. They would never have got out alive. They would never. It was just so fast. It hit beyond, and they only had seconds to get out, to get in the car and get down the driveway, and this came down the track and jumped the road and into the house as fast as that. No time to pack a bag or nothing. Just get out, go.
I was shocked at how complete the destruction was. I mean, you could tell where the houses were simply because there was chimneys there, but other than that, it was just a pile of ash, not even rubble, ash.
Yeah, well, see, people stayed there watering down their houses, would not leave. They stayed there, and they had to do what they had to do. And I was in St. John's at the time, and I probably would have been doing the same thing, but it hit so hard, you never had a chance to turn on a hose to fight it. It was impossible. The fire was so high in the air, 1,000, 1,200 feet up in the air with flames going, and the wind was just the right way. There was no chance of getting out of there. You just get out when you could.
And it was blowing so hard that day. I mean, there was literally no chance.
It was the perfect wind for that fire, and was wicked. My dad said he never seen nothing like it in his life, and that's unbelievable. Like, you got no home, like no garage, no nothing, right? Everything gone.
So what are your municipal leaders saying, and what's the MHA, Steve Crocker, saying to you?
Well, he's saying there's going to be some word by and by, like it's going to be something, and I'm going to have to reach out to Tony Wakeham, and he said, he's after asking the Premier, and he's just waiting to see what he's going to say, and we're wondering the same thing, right? Like, everybody is like, is it, or is he? If he's not, just tell us. Like, come on, like, don't fool around. We need to know. Premier Hogan, we want to know what's going on. Right? He said to be an announcement in a week. There was no announcement, no nothing, right?
And this is going on 3 weeks now, is it not?
Yes, exactly. Are we forgot about, pushed in the back corner, or what? Like, this is what we want to know. And I mean, I'm talking on behalf of everyone in the Cove, in Adams Cove. Like, just people want to know. Like, my next door neighbor, they got burnt out too, and they're in the same boat we're in, right? So, literally, we need to know some answers. If they're not going to help out, like, why have a disaster line when you call them and he says, leave your name and number and we'll get back to you? And that's over 2 weeks ago. Like, come on, like, really, what's going on this day and age, right? At least call you back and talk to you,
Trevor, I do appreciate your call this morning, and I'm glad that you and your family are so vocal on this, because it can't be forgotten. You have to see it. You have to see it to believe it. It is unbelievable.
You wouldn't believe the traffic is after coming to Adams Cove. If we had to start a fundraiser at the end of the road in Adams Cove, we'd probably build Adams Cove twice. The amount of people is after coming through the cove just to look and get pictures, because they can't believe it themselves. Like, I'm in tears here now this morning just trying to talk about this. And, I mean, it's gone, and it's never going to be put back the way it was, right? The scenery the way it was. There's no way. The houses, no, right?
You can't even pick out the landmarks on the ground. Like, you don't know where you are.
No. All we got is an empty yard down there, right, full of rubbish. And we started to do some cleanup, because if you don't start now, you'll never get out of the winter. So you got to start now, right? To do the cleanup. And I mean, it's hard. I mean, my parents are 82, and they want to go back there, right? They want to go back there to live, and as long as I'm alive, I'm going to try to get something back there for them, But, I mean, Premier Hogan said that, this would be no different, he said, from Fiona. So if they're hiding something and keeping it in the back burner, there's going to be a surprise, let us know. Like, yes or no, are you going to help out or not? If you're not, tell us, right? Then we know what kind of a government we got, right?
Trevor, I appreciate your time. I will ask this one last question, and I think it may have been asked before, but I'll ask it again. Did your parents have insurance on the house?
No, they did not. No, they did not. And it's a good many more never either, right?
Not unusual for a lot of people who own their homes.
No, exactly. Like, right, you would never think the wildfire would come down through and clean you out, right? After that amount of time living in Adams Cove, you know? It was unreal.
Trevor, all the best to you and your family. If you do hear anything, let us know.
I will, Lyndon. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Trevor Parsons, they're wondering where is the plan for the people of Adams Cove, who in some cases have lost absolutely everything. And again, I drove through there myself just a week or so ago, and I could not believe the level of destruction. As far as the eye can see, all you can see is black. In fact, if you know the area, you can smell the char entering Kingston. It's that extensive and far away. You can smell the char in the air. Anyway, if anybody else has any thoughts on that, they're certainly welcome to give us a call. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we hope to speak with you. And we're back. We're going now to Alan. You're on the air. Hello, Alan.
Hello there.
How are you?
Not too bad.
That's good. What's on your mind?
We live in the East End, and there's been an ongoing issue for years of a house that has been a rental, but it has been rented as a rooming house / clubhouse, basically. It's been rented out by the bed, by the room, and I mean beds in the furnace room.
Oh, wow.
And the type of people that have been obviously rented to are not the best of society. And, you know, the city's been called and repetitively called. They'll come out, they'll do sort of this little thing. They'll maybe make something, a little change happen here or there, and then they're gone and you never ever hear back from them. You never see them again. And then another call goes in and it starts again. But about a month ago, we've all known that things are eventually going to come to a head, and we've been trying to prepare what might come next. And about a month ago, we had a knock on our door, and it was police, and we'd heard cars going up, you know, at full tilt, sirens going, whatever, and they were looking to see if anybody had recordings or anything of a gunshot that had been reported, and none of us, I guess, did. And then not even, I guess it was May 5th, we were sitting in our home at 8 o'clock at night and heard a shotgun go off. So 911 was called, and somebody was supposedly dispatched and never, ever showed up. And finally, around midnight, we got a call saying, you know, he got rerouted to an assault thing in progress or something. But I'm like, well, is there just you out there? You know, this is something that, as far as I was concerned, like, okay, we're all sitting here and there's somebody shooting a gun off. And I actually had a full recording of it on my video. And he listened to it and agreed it was a shotgun. And but like the next day, nobody came out canvassing the area. Nobody followed up. I phoned in a day later to complain like I haven't heard anything, and I wrote in a complaint, and no feedback at all. Nobody called me back. So we're still trying to figure out why no one came out and inspected this situation. The following Saturday, police arrive again and arrest a guy on the parking lot or on the driveway. And like this has happened multiple times over the years, and haul him off. And, you know, the next night we were sitting out, we were walking through our yard, and you heard somebody out in the backyard yelling how he was going to smash out all the windows and he was going to kill that effing, and it's an N-word that I will not repeat. And we were just like, oh, God, what's coming, right? And the next morning, sure enough, there's chaos and smashing and banging and doors being thrown over fences. And he basically busted every window out of this house. And police arrived, arrested him. And we've learned he had a very extensive criminal history, and some of it even including some sexual stuff. And this person was put in our neighborhood, we find out, by either mental health or somebody, and they were paying this owner $3,500 a month to keep this person there.
So is this property you're talking about deemed an emergency shelter?
No.
Is it like a rooming? It's a rooming house, obviously.
Yeah, we've called and said, is this allowed to run the house as a rooming house? And, they were kind of like, well, yeah, there are other ones around, but they're controlled by, NL Housing, and we never have a problem with those. And I'm like, obviously there's a problem here.
Well, it's upending the neighborhood by the sounds of it.
Yeah. And the whole neighbor's been terrorized for years. People are scared to walk outside because they just don't know what's going to happen. We've had them trespassing through our yard because they just decided it was a shortcut to get to the street better than walking around the corner. It's just been ongoing. And when they arrested this last situation, then all of a sudden, the city showed up and to inspect what had gone on. And the owner came out and warned the guy. She says, I won't go in the house because there's a gun in there. And so the city worker, of course, isn't going to go in. So he called it into his bosses and took off because he wasn't going into the house. And a few hours, not even maybe half an hour later or so, next thing you know, there's taxi cabs pulling up and there's stuff being pulled out of the house, and some of it looked rather suspicious. And all these vehicles were loaded up, and next thing you know, all the people are out, and they're jumping in cabs, they're doing whatever, and the place is vacated. And then the police show up a little later on, and I think went in and inspected and came out and told the neighbor next door, there's no gun in there. And the owner, she has troubles with with the tenants. And we're like, well, then whose fault's that? She's the one that needs people in there.
Well, is it transitional housing?
No, nothing. It's a private home. And we know she has two other ones in the city that she's doing the same thing with.
So where is this located? You said in the East End. Are you willing to name the street?
It's on Lunenburg.
So you've had trouble with this property for some time. I assume you've called the city.
Oh, a bunch of times.
Yeah, and so you've called the RNC, obviously. You've outlined that.
Yeah.
So I guess my question next is, when there is a property that's creating such chaos in a particular neighborhood, who provides the oversight there? And I think this is the frustration that comes from all of this. If there's people there that need to be monitored or whatever the case may be or followed up on, who is providing that?
Nobody, from what we can tell. The counselor was called last year, and the house was brought to her attention. She said, I can't do anything like that, so it has to be passed down to whoever's down the line, whatever department. And she said, I passed it on, and she said, I never heard anything back, so I assumed everything was okay or had been worked out, and that was a year ago. And when I called her this time, she says, I didn't think there was a problem. I thought it was all dealt with. And I'm like, obviously not, right? And it's just been going on. We now have a group of homeowners that have banded together, and we're all trying to find solutions, and we're calling everybody from, our MHA to opposition people to whatever we can think of, trying to say that this has got to stop. At this point, we now understand the city has removed the occupancy permit on the house, so nobody can be in there. Nobody can live in there. And now it's just sitting there with smashed out windows and boards up, and we have no idea what's going to go on. Like, is it going to get repaired, and then we start this whole thing all over again? Because it's just been a constant changeover of people, right?
So it's vacant right now, but for how long is your question?
Yeah.
So
that's our biggest concern is, if she fixes it, she's told some people she's going to sell, but nobody believes anything she says, because she's told us in the past that she was going to get some things cleaned up and all this sort of thing, and nothing has ever really come of it. And so now, she's saying, I'm going to sell. We're like, yeah, I'm sure. You're making $3,500 a bed, so you're gonna sell.
You said beds in the laundry room and basement and stuff.
Oh yeah, in every room or everywhere that they can be, there's a bed.
Wow. So what is the capacity on a regular, residential home? How many people are allowed to live in those types of situations?
There doesn't seem to be a limit. Like, we know there's been at least 10 to more in that house at times. Right? Upstairs and downstairs. And we've dealt with people yelling on the decks and standing outside saying this is a crack house and everybody wants us gone, and, people being arrested on a regular basis, and, it's just been nonstop. Like, the whole community is just fed up.
And one wonders how many neighborhoods in and around Newfoundland and Labrador are dealing with similar things in their areas.
Well, we know of probably another 3 or 4 houses in the area that are rented by the room. They don't seem to be a problem, but still, they're being rented out by the room. So you've got, dozens of people. I got one house up the street. There's 7 different cars in the driveway, right? And it's a 4-room house or 5-room house. So they're renting it out by the room because it's the only way it could work. Right?
There are serious questions that are being raised by residents and neighbors like yourself and others who are seeing these things on a day-by-day basis. And as you expressed, it changes the feel of the neighborhood. It doesn't make you feel safe anymore.
No, we've got, young families have bought in and moved in. We've got seniors up here, widows up here on their own. I back onto it, so I have to deal with the whole back of the thing and hearing it all and people cutting through, and it's just absolutely atrocious what's gone on. And the fact that every time you complain, it just seems to get, she's having trouble. Well, who cares? Do something about it. But nobody seems to want to.
Alan, I appreciate your call this morning. I'd like to hear what others have to say who are dealing with similar kinds of things.
Yeah, me too.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Alan.
All right, thank you.
All right.
You have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And maybe we can get the ward councillor to discuss that, or even the housing minister. We'll be back right after this. We're back. Linda Swain in for Patty Daly. We're going to go now to Walter. You're on the air. Hi, Walter.
A very good morning to you, Ms. Swain. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not so bad. Happy Friday and happy weekend to you and your listeners. I wanted to bring up one little topic here in Cowan Heights. Beautiful area, wonderful walking trails, very recreation-oriented. But one thing that is not here in Cowan Heights that I think we require is a dog park, is an off-leash dog park for pet owners to bring their dogs to have a destination to go to. While the trail systems are fantastic, and they are fantastic, you can get anywhere in Cowan Heights, within 10 minutes walking on the trails. There is no destination, and a dog park, I think, would be a welcome addition. The council is looking at, spending some money in the area, and I think this is one of the pieces of infrastructure that would be easy to put in because the ground is already there, and people wouldn't have to drive, of course, to Baring Park or Mundy Pond to let their dogs have a little romp around and get socialized. So, I just wanted to call in and suggest that perhaps a dog park in Cowan Heights might be a good idea.
I'm surprised there isn't one already.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I think, for the forest for the trees kind of thing. But Kiddygall Park is a beautiful little park off Birmingham Street in Cowan Heights, and it already has soccer fields and basketball nets and a little baseball field / softball field. And just to the left of the entrance to Kiddygall, there's a little green space. And I was up there the other day, and I'm like, this is a perfect spot for a dog park, and it would be extra special because there's water lines available, of course, because homes are there. There's a lot of evergreen trees, coniferous trees, so there's a lot of sound deadening available, 12 months of the year, and you're not really introducing anything to the area that's not already there because it is a recreational area. There's parking available, maybe put up a couple of lights. So I think, folks are encouraged, and I encourage it, to not drive as much, maybe walk or roll or however you get along. And boy, what a spot. I stood there for 5 or 10 minutes, and a couple of lovely ladies were coming with their dogs, and they said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, just picture this. And when I said it to them, they said, it's a great idea. So I said, I'm going to call Linda and mention it, and perhaps it'll take some traction. And there is some monies available through engage.john's.ca, and they're asking for some input about how the money should be spent and what should be done in the Cowan Heights area to make it, more enjoyable to be there. The dog park is great for dogs, but it's also great for the owners because you can go down and sit down and have a chat. You might recognize someone that you see around, and my gosh, next thing they're, oh, you live 3 doors down? Yeah, then 3 doors down, then you could have the best friendship in the world. And it all started because of a beautiful little dog park. So I just wanted to mention it. I might be totally out in left field, but I said I'd mention it and see if it takes a bit of traction.
It's a great idea, and I've been down at Kitty Gall many, many, many times, and I can tell you the area does attract a lot of pet owners. They're using those trails and taking their dogs out for walks, and you can see people congregating and talking about their dogs and that sort of thing. So then it seems like a natural next step.
I hope so, and I'll let whoever can run with it and see where it goes. And I just wanted to mention it and see if perhaps this time in a year or so we can all say we're going down to the dog park.
Walter, great idea. Thanks for your call.
Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much.
All right,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. We're going to go now to Dave. You're on the air. Hi, Dave.
Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Oh, Dave, I think we've got that funny thing happening there. I'll put you back on hold, and we'll see if we can't figure that out. Just give us a second now. I can't put it on hold because Dave's already got it. Yes, he does. All right, so we're going to go now to Hubert. You're on the air. Hi, Hubert.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call, Linda.
Yes, no trouble. What's on the go?
I'm calling about the state of our healthcare. I know this is a topic that's been beat to death, but so I'm calling from the small community of St. Lawrence, they're down in the Bjorn Peninsula. And on Tuesday, I called the U.S. Memorial Hospital hoping to get an appointment to see a doctor that we had there on locum for a few weeks. And I was told that I couldn't get to see the doctor because I don't have a family doctor. And I said, well, what do? I don't have a family doctor. I don't have a doctor, so I can't see a doctor. That's basically what I'm being told. So that festered with me for a few hours, and then I left and went to the hospital itself and spoke to the girl who, looks after the appointments. And I'm not saying nothing negative about the gals. They're doing what they're told to do and doing their job, And I said, what protocol are you following to make a decision where I can't see a doctor? So all she could do was furnish me a number to call somebody in the regional office in the Marystown area, which I did, and I spoke to a girl named Kelly, and she was very professional and took my information and called me back 15 or 20 minutes later. And I used to have a family doctor, and he's moved to the Virgin Islands, Dr. Quinter, and I haven't seen him for 3 years. So now I don't have a family doctor, and I can't get to see a doctor because I don't have a family doctor. So I got a friend to call in about a half hour later, out of curiosity, and when he was asked the question, do you have a family doctor? He said, yes. But they told him, you got to go see your family doctor. You can't come in here. So, I mean, it's a real catch-22.
Yeah, so what is the locum there for? What role is that locum
we don't
filling?
have a doctor there full-time. The last several times I've been into the U.S. Memorial Hospital, I spoke to a doctor on the TV about the assistance of a nurse. And, I mean, that all works pretty good. And I got to say, in the lack of being able to get a doctor, that's the next best thing. And I just find it really ironic that, our forefathers in St. Lawrence and Lon crawled down over an icy cliff some 80-odd years ago, plucked 200 American sailors out of the sea, saved them from certain deaths. President Roosevelt gifted the people of Lon and St. Lawrence a hospital for their bravery in saving these 200 American sailors. And now the people of St. Lawrence and Lon who don't have a family doctor can't go in this hospital and see a doctor when there's one there. I just think it's totally crazy myself.
Hubert, you're raising a very good point. So is this locum that's located at St. Lawrence, is this like a walk-in clinic? What is it?
No, they have a doctor come periodically, and you have to phone in and speak to the girls on the front desk, make an appointment. And, over the years, people have, because we're in rural Newfoundland, what tends to happen is you'll see a doctor and he's only here for a short period of time, and 6 months or 8 months he's gone. And people with ongoing health issues had a tendency to go to Bjorn or Marystown and seeing doctors that are stationed there. So they had somebody, they're seeing the same person with ongoing care. But over the last number of years, a lot of those have retired or moved on, which left a lot of people in the St. Lawrence and Lyme and other areas of Bjorn Peninsula in limbo. And so, like I say, I'm a citizen of St. Lawrence for 64 years, and now I can't go in the hospital that was gifted to us from the bravery of our forefathers for the community of Lyme and Lawrence. I can't go in and get an appointment now because I don't have a doctor. It don't make no sense to me.
And if you had a doctor, you couldn't get in and get an appointment anyway because you have to go to your doctor. So it's a bit, like you say, it's a catch-22.
If he tells him you got a family doctor, he says, well, you got to go to him or her. I said, well, like, how do you get around this?
Yeah.
Are you? So I did speak to the child a number that the girls in St. Lawrence gave me, administrative, and a girl in Marystown. She's very professional, but, you know, she's going to give me some information and put my name on a list somewhere with the government or healthcare, and somewhere along the line somebody might line me up with a family doctor. But
who's your member? Is it Mr. Pike?
Yeah, Mr. Paul Pike. Yeah, I have plans this weekend now on writing a letter to Mr. Pike and Minister of Health and Pat Fairburn, who's the CEO of Eastern Health. And, I mean, this can't keep going on. And I'm just wondering how many people in your listening audience from Lord's Cove to Little St. Lawrence now are finding the same thing, that they can't get to see a doctor because they don't have a doctor. And I don't know how. I can't understand. I can't wrap my head around the rationale of that. But anyway.
Hubert, I really appreciate your call this morning. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
All righty. Bye-bye. Your thoughts on what Hubert's had to say, give us a call. We're up to news time now with Sarah Strickland. And we're back on VOCM Open Line. Linda Swain sitting in for Patty Daly, who is off today. We're going to go now to Dave Callahan. Hello, Dave.
Good morning, Linda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad at all. Looking out at a sunny day today, so I'm actually quite happy with that.
Well, that's good to hear. I hope it comes this way.
Well, it kind of looks like it might, actually, from what I've seen earlier. I hope you do. Calling in today because it was only yesterday or the day before I had actually sat and listened to Patty, and he had a caller that was discussing possibilities for rural areas. I think it was in light of 911 service or something being expanded. But it was as a result of their region having inaccurate information, I guess, to be used by like ambulance operators or first responders due to lack of civic numbered situations like in the houses and whatever. And it was difficult, of course, for them to locate. Sometimes they do it by postal code. So postal code could span a couple of different communities, and without the civic and precise location information, it made it very difficult for ambulance operators, which is very understandable. Well, last night, around 10:30 or so, the same exact thing, and I've had it happen once before, occurred in our town, St. George's, around 10:30 or so last night. I was in my kitchen. I noticed red lights flashing outside, in the proximity of my driveway. So I opened the door and I see an EMT, young fellow, come running at my house and say, "Did you call for an ambulance?" I said, "No, we didn't." And then he said, "Well, what number are you?" I said, "We're 164 Main Street." And he was looking for 706, which I'm not even sure. I guess it exists, but it must be a lot farther up into our town. So I said, it would be beyond me. I'm 164, so we jumped in the ambulance and they took off. Then about 20 minutes or half hour later, they came down the road, quite fast. So obviously they had found where they needed to be. And it at the same time echoed to me like what I had heard on Patty's show. and never called in. I just listened to the caller at the time, and it really struck home with me because I said, not only we have our postal code here as well, specific to our region, but it expands our region. But we do have civic addresses, and the information that came across to the ambulance operator, I think, was via GPS. But the GPS led them to my civic address. Well, there's got to be a better way of doing things and linked to other technologies or something. It was only a couple of weeks ago that we had a problem with my wife's iPhone, and we couldn't answer. We had attempted to make a phone call, but it went to an emergency thing on the phone, and they called us back, and we were in our cottage, and the RCMP arrived to my door. They knew exactly where that phone was, and that was in my cottage in Flat Bay Brook. So there is technology out there, to be precise, for these locations, but I think we're missing the boat in terms of it being readily available for first responders or it being precise and accurate, and a definite need for something to be looked at, obviously, provincially. This particular scenario, for us in particular here in Bay St. George, we have very limited resources at our hospital, and we're all nervous because of this bloody health accord and what it could do for the future. But we do have very capable people working at our emergency situation in Stephenville, which we expect to get to as quickly as possible. And I think the thing is, for like trauma victims or like cardiac incidents or whatever, is to stabilize you and get you to Corner Brook as quickly as possible. Well, we're already an hour from Corner Brook, and the miracle time that you need up front can't be hindered by inappropriate ambulance information being available to the professionals that provide that service.
And maybe that's why, to an extent, that an area code or postal code, when available, is required, because it'll help zone in on a region, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, it definitely would. And in the case over here, we share a postal code with Flat Bay, which is on the other side of a river and is only accessible by going to the highway and getting in there. The delay for confusion in that case would be horrific. If they came to St. George's first, they'd have to backtrack to get around Flat Bay River to go into the community of Flat Bay, and that is detrimental to the people of that community. But I'd also like to, at the same time here, I'm in the process of writing a letter of advocacy to the minister, which I think the minister responsible for ambulances would be Sarah Studley, Service NL, and I'm sure there's some input from Department of Health as well. But the issue that we have here now, of course, is directly response time. We have very limited ability at our hospital, and especially after hours. We have but one emergency doctor almost always, and that is the most that we do see for the entire region. We need as adequate, capable, and well-equipped ambulatory services as possible. And I think that basically, if we were to look at doing things like with our local first responders, like our fire department here in St. George's is stellar. They are amazing at what they do. Their response times are extremely fast. Like in case of medical call, they do way more medical calls right now than they do fire calls. Our department is blessed. I know there's more than one, and our chief in particular is a trained EMT. I know another that's there. He's a long-time senior of the department, very, very heavily trained in first response, such as, I think, first responder above and beyond first aid. Like he's practically an EMT. Our fire department is very capable, has most resources available, and I think this time, in light of not having a fully equipped hospital and without trying to belabor that point, we need medical response above and beyond what we have. And I think that St. George's would be a central location that would be great, probably operated by our fire department, to have EMT, an actual ambulance. It would serve many communities around us with quicker response. And of course, most people know, like in our town, where to go civically and whatever. They know exactly where the emergencies are required.
It makes perfect sense, of course, but the problem that lies within that level of reliance, and it's in many communities are relying on their volunteer fire departments to for emergency response in terms of health and that sort of thing, as opposed to ambulances. The problem there is that many of these fire departments are volunteer, and
That's correct.
Is it right for us to rely on a volunteer group to do the work
that's not exactly what I'm saying. I think our volunteer fire department should have paid career EMTs that operate in unison right from the same facility. And I mean, of course, as far as the response by your local department, they would ensure that, say, the EMTs who are probably even part of that department are facilitated. Like a lot of the things that we do now are, say, like in the case we have defib, we have lots of other things, but one of the main things that we get called for quite often, even when there is an ambulance that attends, is for lifting services to get the person out of the house or whatever the case may be, where they could go with two EMTs that are from here, from this department, in paid positions. To basically increase your response time would be optimal. They'd have a full fire force backing up these EMTs at every time they arrive. Like case in point, our people here in town often respond to situations on the highway where they use as a matter of fact, they trained for this. They trained several departments last weekend in vehicle extrication. They have the jaws of life. They have everything with them that they need. If they had two trained EMTs and an ambulance right here, they would have optimal response time, because they'd actually be part and parcel of the initial emergency call, where firefighters equipped with everything that they need for vehicle extrication. It's the same thing as a house. When the EMTs get up to go, our firefighters are gung-ho. You don't need to worry about, they're going anyway. So these EMTs would be assisted at every call in this region.
Dave, I appreciate your call this morning. We'll see what others have to say. Thanks.
Yep, and I'll follow up that letter. Minister Studley and others can expect to see it, and I think in light of having to do with a less equipped and less capable medical situation in our region, as all regions are struggling with all of that, but everything from staffing to services available, this would be a great step forward in quicker response and our ability for those precious minutes first.
Dave, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Take a short break. When we come back, we hope to speak with you. And we're back. A lot of interesting topics raised on the show so far this morning. If you have any thoughts on anything that's been raised here, or you want to raise a matter of concern to yourself and others, by all means, do give us a call. We're going to go now to Mona. You're on the air. Hello, Mona.
Hi, Linda. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm making another plea. I want my Priscilla. She's a calico cat. She's well cared for. She will answer to her name Priscilla, or if you call her little girl, because that's what I used to call her sometimes. She's a therapy cat. I need her because I have PTSD.
So she got out, is that correct? How long has she been gone now?
She's gone 5 days, 6 days.
Have you called the SPCA?
I've done everything. She has a chip.
And are your neighbors familiar with her?
Yes, everybody's out my apartment building also looking. The last time she was seen was down by Piper's on Elizabeth Avenue. And that was Saturday. I went down, but I couldn't find her.
Yeah, she could be anywhere. Someone might have taken her in, for goodness sake. I know you've made this plea repeatedly. If anybody does happen to see Priscilla, what number should they call?
Your man has my number. Your
producer, Dave.
Yeah, I'm
okay.
sorry.
So, yes. So if anybody has seen Priscilla or thinks they've seen Priscilla or knows where Priscilla might be, they're welcome to give VOCM Open Line a call. Dave will give you the number. 2735211 is our number.
Please, people, look out for her. It's cold this morning. I don't want her out in the cold.
Yeah.
Please, please. Please get my Priscilla back to me. Thank you.
All right, Mona. Good luck with it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. We're going to go now to Clyde. You're on the air. Hi, Clyde.
Yes, good morning, Linda. Nice to hear your voice again. I've been calling in that over 20 years. I think you used to be on Nightline back then.
That's right.
Yeah, anyway, I just wondering what's going on with putting out contracts for the roads, and don't seem to be much on the go yet there, and here we are into the 23rd day of May, and at this time of the year, this is the best time for the construction, because you can start early in the morning and you can go 12 hours right till 7, 8, 9 in the evening if you got to, right? But don't seem to be much on the go. We got these beautiful communities here on the Bjorn Peninsula and all over Newfoundland, Labrador, and it don't seem to be anything being done at all to it, only getting worse all the time. I've been at this for years, and we've had petitions, we've sent emails to the minister, and now we got a new minister in their transportation again now, and a new premier, so... and the House closed yesterday, which I don't agree with that. There's lots of stuff to be done and talked about, and put it up front, right? You know, get the work done, and let people know what is going on, you know.
So what's the situation with the roads out your way? Are they cracked and broken, potholes?
No,
what?
I sent Patty pictures, and well, they're cracked, they're gone, it's like it all over the place. Like, you know, when you get this, we're having milder winters, and it seems that the milder winters is taking a toll on the roads more, you know. And where I live is, we're only 6 kilometers away from the main road, and in order to get to Rock Harbor, you got to come through Spanish Arm, right? This community over the hill, we call it, and we only got 6 kilometers, and the road over there is terrible altogether. Like there's cuts in it where the pipes is give out and is all foundered down, and it's not only a bump and thump now anymore, it's a safety issue, Linda, because right now if you phone for emergencies like a fire or an ambulance, there's no way they can rush out here over that road.
So it's the province that's responsible for those stretches?
Yes, this is Department of Highways, Transportation, yes. Yeah.
And when was the last time it was resurfaced?
Oh, my God. I'd say probably 20 or 30 years.
Is that right?
Yeah, you know, they're putting in a spot here and a spot there, and that puts, like I say, there's not a plan there, Linda. That's the problem. There's not a plan there we can't expect every little place to get paved right from 6 kilometers right to where I'm to. But the thing is, there should be a contractor or the Department of Highways should set up something to come in, take out the bad spots, and just pave that much over, and put new culverts or pipes in, and at least make it safe to drive on. You know, you're not going to get it perfect, but at least try. You know. It don't seem to be going anywhere, only on deaf ears to me anyway, so far. I've been at this for years, at this stuff, but don't seem to be getting much headway. There's a place that washed out when we had heavy rain, and the pavement's cracked off there, and the signs are still up there 3 months later.
Clyde,
So,
I do appreciate your call today. I'd like to hear what others have to say, if not in your region, then other parts of the province that are sorely in need of some road work.
yeah, they need a better plan than that. Like I say, tourism is coming up. There's lots of beautiful places you want to visit, but I mean, you want to be able to get there without beating your machines up,
All right.
Yeah, anyway, you have a good day and be safe, and I think you should put some of that pot money in the potholes.
Clyde, thank you.
Yeah, bye.
All right, bye-bye. We're going to go now to Walter. You're on the air. Hello, Walter.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, yes. I'm calling about the fire out in Adams Cove. And the young fellow Trevor, I think his name was Trevor Parsons, called in.
Yes.
And he tried to compare it to Portabass. But Portabass was an issue where the insurance companies wouldn't cover it, so government had to go in. Now, I think he alluded to the fact that his father doesn't have insurance on his home. And if it's the same person I have my car fixed there. His father was a mechanic, had a successful business, so unless there were some extenuating circumstances where he couldn't afford it, I mean, what are we supposed to do? What kind of message are we sending to people who are paying for insurance? If government's going to go in and replace their houses, they're just going to say, well, why should we pay insurance?
And there is a possibility that could be why a bit of a delay is being extended here, because by rights, if you're a homeowner, you should have insurance, even if you have your home paid up. Now, I do understand there's a cost involved, and a lot of people waive that because for whatever reason. But I do know there's an awful lot of people out there who do not have home insurance.
Yeah, I know, and then what will happen then is that, some person will go ahead and have a fundraiser. I know of a case situation about 40 years ago, a kid came home from drinking, put some French fries on the stove, and burnt the house down. They had a fundraiser, no insurance, had a fundraiser and built a house. A few years later, done the same thing. So, but the other thing is that, so I'm from the same area, and I drove through there, and I saw the devastation. It is terrible. Even if you get your home back, it's still terrible. I know one lady she was in a rental, and she lost all the, I'll say, memorabilia of her late son, and that had to be devastating. You can't replace that kind of stuff. But when I was out there, I was speaking with a lady who's part of the firefighting community. If you live in the town of Small Point, Adams Cove, that's where I grew up, your council fees your firefighting fees are included in your municipal fees. If you have a house or a cabin like we do in Northern Bay, we had to pay a $50 fee. It went from $45 to $50. She told me that when it went from $45 to $50, her husband, who was a volunteer firefighter, who spent 39 hours, she told me, fighting that fire, he was getting phone calls, people complaining. It went up $5. Now imagine just paying $50 for firefighting. So I said to her, well, what about the people who, what percentage of people are not paying the firefighting? This should get out there, really, and those people should be ashamed of themselves. She said about 20% of the people are paying firefighting fees outside of that community. That is absolutely terrible.
I wonder how many other communities are facing similar kinds of difficulties when it comes to extending that fire coverage, because, a fire department is a volunteer organization in many rural areas, and, there are costs associated with covering areas outside of the community that they happen to be involved in. I know of a situation where you pay your fee to Harbour Grace, and, for instance, it extends into Bristol's Hope. So I would imagine it's the same thing out your way as you explained. So are you saying that once the fire fee went up just $5 a year, people wouldn't pay it anymore?
No, they weren't paying all along, but people were calling complaining about a $5 increase. I mean, $50 to protect my home is not a hell of a lot of money. What they should have, they can't publish who's not. But I think one of the things they could do is that when I pay my firefighting fees, I should get a little sticker or something, an emblem to put on my cabin saying, I pay my firefighting fees. So then if someone goes to your house and you're not paying, they'll ask for the way. They'll shame you into it.
That was a common practice one time. They used to have those types of plaques on people's houses if you were supporting the fire department or not. And in some cases, the fire department would see you didn't have a plaque and would stand there and watch it burn.
Well, I remember a few years ago, a young fellow, he was much younger than me, said to me, and I think the situation was in Cornerbrook, it was a town outside of Corner Brook, and they went to this town and they said, listen, you guys are not paying any firefighting fees. You have to pay a nominal fee, and it could have been $50, and they turned it down. So the kid's house burned out, and he said, oh, they let my house burn down. I said, they didn't let his house burn down. They asked him if he wanted fire protection, and he refused it. So that was the end. But if I can get one more quick point in here about slow traffic, do I have time?
Absolutely. Very quickly, though.
Okay, quickly. I drive the Veterans Memorial Highway every day, and I see every day two manure trucks driving. They're doing uphill. They're doing 40 to 60 kilometers an hour with a long line of traffic. They shouldn't be allowed on the road. There's a service road next to them, and what's going to happen is that, and I've seen it happen, kids, they'll pull out on a blind hill or a blind turn, and there's going to be a head-on collision. I know it's not the manure truck driver's fault, but it certainly is a contributing factor, and police should be out policing this. They should go to the farmers and say, if we catch you, you're going to get fined for slow-moving traffic.
But we do have laws. We do have laws, do we not? I thought that was introduced some time ago, whereby, tractors and the like had to be on a flatbed. If you were going to move them from one area to another, they had to be on a flatbed.
Yes. Exactly, but it's not being enforced. No good to have the law if it's not being enforced. So as a result, and I've called several times, and there's nothing being done, right? So, there's no point in having a law if it's not enforced, is there? And what will happen is now we'll see a bad head-on collision. There'll be some fatalities, and then you'll see the police out. They'll be, like, what's it called, closing the gate after the horse gets out.
Walter, you're poking the bear this morning. I appreciate your call. Thank you very much.
I have a way of doing that. So I would suspect when I head out to our cabin next time, the people out there won't like me too well, but I don't really care. Appreciate
your call. Thank you.
Thanks, Alpha.
All right, bye-bye. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we hope to speak with you. We have a few lines open, and I know that it's we've had a lot of calls on the air so far, but some people, I suppose, couldn't wait and have dropped off the line. So if you've done so, you can call us back. And we're back. We're going now to Michael Williams. Hello, Michael.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
I just wanted to phone in this morning to talk about the wall falling down in the HM Penitentiary prison.
What happened?
The wall collapsed in front of the building. The whole entire wall. So I've been protesting I spent some time in that prison, and I've been 7 years protesting the conditions of the prison. It's not the protest about justice. If you break the law, there's consequences to you breaking the law. But there's supposed to be rehabilitation and, protecting the community. You imagine if yesterday, when it fell, if there had to been recreation and all the inmates had to been outside of the prison and the wall collapsed, you would have had hundreds of inmates that would have been loose today.
Are you talking about the outdoor area, that the wall that surrounds that outdoor area, or are you talking about the building itself?
The whole front entrance to the HM Penitentiary wall, where the inmates do the recreation, it actually collapsed. Every bit of the wall just fell right in.
That's extraordinary. So is the building open now to the elements? What are you saying?
No, the building is closed because now it's an emergency, because now the whole wall has collapsed. So the safety of the public and the safety of the inmates, staff, everybody, so it's an emergency lockdown. So this is the first time in the history of anywhere in the world, any world country, third world country, that a wall has actually collapsed around a prison. So that's how old HM Penitentiary prison is, that the wall couldn't sustain itself. It actually collapsed.
I'm gobsmacked. I find this extraordinary. I haven't been down that way in a long time, so right. The East End is not an area I frequent, but I'm absolutely blown away by this.
Well, so you imagine how if a wall in front of a major prison in Canada and North America would collapse, can you imagine what inside of the prison is like? So you imagine as an inmate or as a victim, knowing that you're going to be sentenced, go inside of a prison, and there's a potential that the prison could collapse or the wall could collapse. You know, the government really got to step in here, and the politicians, federal, provincial, and they must sit down and have an emergency meeting. And instead of talking about and coming on political elections saying we're going to build a new prison, we all got to put our heads together now and really come up with a plan and put it forth, because this here is the eye-opener to everybody in Newfoundland.
Well, you're absolutely right, Michael. I don't think there's any argument there. This is a can that's been kicked down the road so long. It runs the full extent of my career in this business, going back to the 80s. I understand from a political standpoint that it's hard to get people on board when it comes to the extraordinary cost of replacing that type of a structure, because a lot of people feel, well, you know, so what? Punishment is punishment. Live there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But in reality, correctional facilities, and that is the key word here, is correctional. It's not a jail. It's not a prison. It's a correctional facility, is about trying to rehabilitate people. How do you rehabilitate people in those kinds of circumstances? And not only that, but it's a work and safety issue now, because there's staff also involved.
Yeah, you imagine being a staff member to go to work, and the warden of the prison tells you, okay, you got to go out and do the search on the ground, because they do searches on the ground. They walk around the ground. You imagine going into work and walk around the prison to do a safety check, and the wall collapse in on a prison guard, and now you're dealing with occupational health and safety. Now you're dealing with maybe losing somebody's life that's a worker. So, you know, just my 2 cents worth. I spent a lot of time in that prison, and it was a lot of trauma. And we're in the courts right now. But having said that, when I went federal, and I went and actually applied the programs that Correctional Services of Canada had, I've been now 15 years totally clean and sober.
Good for you. So, congratulations.
I really appreciate it. I know a lot of people are not going to say that I'm worthy of a second chance, but I put in the hard work. I asked Correctional Service of Canada for the treatment. They treated me for my disease, and now I'm 15 years clean. So what we need to do in Newfoundland is we all got to come together, politicians, federal, local, provincial, justices, and sit down and really come up with a plan, because Newfoundland is in dire straits. As far as the crime rate, the drug addiction, and now they're sent into a prison that is not even feasible to live anymore, let alone work. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to make everybody aware today that HM Penitentiary, the whole wall has collapsed, and now we have a big public safety issue.
Michael, I do appreciate your call this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and God bless you, and have a great day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Extraordinary. We're going to try and get more information on that for you. When we come back after the break, we'll hear from you. And we're back. We're going to go now to Ashley. You're on the air. Hi, Ashley.
Yes, good morning, darling. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Well, I Googled the pen, and I got here, it says, there is no evidence of a wall collapse at Her Majesty's Penitentiary in St. John's, Newfoundland yesterday. While HMP does have infrastructure challenges and a history of maintenance issues, including recent ones like the one mentioned last week, there's no indication of a wall collapse.
All right. What are you quoting?
The challenges and is working to replace the prison. CBC reported that the province accepted the sole bidder for the prison's replacement.
So who are you quoting from? Where are you getting that information?
I googled HMP in St. John's wall collapse yesterday. And this is AI overview.
Oh, okay. That's an AI generated thing, but it doesn't cite a source.
No.
Okay.
Right now, no reporting. News sources have reported this is something else.
Yeah, it's just it's drawing information from everywhere, but it's not quoting a source saying it hasn't happened or it has happened.
No. Here I got CBC, no.
Okay. No, fair enough. AI overviews just sort of scrape the internet, if you will, for information. So it's just a compilation of things, if you know what I'm saying. I'm looking for a source to say it is or it isn't the case. So we have a reporter heading down there now to figure it out.
Okay, that would be wonderful. Oh, my goodness. I hope everybody's all right, though.
If that's the case, absolutely. It requires further investigation, as the saying goes. I appreciate your time.
All right, darling. You have a good day now.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye. We're going to go now to Eddie. You're on the air. Hi, Eddie.
Hello, my love. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Listen, now, I'm going to go with the issue with the HM Penitentiary. One of the oldest prisons in, I guess, Canada, eh? Anyhow, listen, man. When I was a young fella, I got myself in a little bit of trouble with a bit of marijuana, right?
Uh-huh.
And I ended up getting some time down the pen, you know. Broke my mother's heart and broke everybody's heart in the family, being the black sheep and all. But see, getting back to what I was going to say, when I did my first time down there, it was in 1977. And it was the new part wasn't built, and we were all on the flats, right? You know, and our toiletry situation was a honey bucket, right?
Well,
you know, so that's whatever. But I mean, and then there's a lot of other ongoing issues down in that penitentiary that people don't know about, and they can Google it and boom, 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 and stand it and whatever, right? There's a lot more issues about rats and stuff like that, I mean, I know the guards they got a job to do and whatnot, right? And I mean, my heart goes out to all the prisoners down there, like I hate to say it, right? Right? But in the meantime, I'm just touching base with you. As far as that lady was just on about the wall did collapse, my love. You send a report on Rowdy Lake.
Well, I mean, yeah, fair enough. Yes, and those AI-generated, it can't give you information that it doesn't have, if you know what I'm saying.
That's right, honey. Yeah. Well, listen, now that's all I'm saying. Being as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I haven't been back. I learned my lesson the first time. Anyhow, but. It was absolutely terrible back then. You got free smokes, pouch of smokes and tobacco or papers. You were allowed to smoke down there. It was a different era, I guess, But anyhow, getting back to it all, my heart goes out to not the prisoners for sure. And the guards, they got their hands full, they're doing the best they can, I guess, you know what I mean? Well, what can you do with nothing? That prison should have been replaced 20 years ago. But the politicians, they should be tarred and feathered. I mean, it's just retarded.
All right. Eddie, I appreciate your call. Thank you very much.
You have a good day, my love.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. We're going to go now to Colin. You're on the air. Hi, Colin.
Good morning, Miss Wayne. How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Just wanted to comment on the penitentiary, seeing as somebody just raised an issue that there may be some infrastructure issues down there that are even more serious than we thought, regarding alleged wall collapse.
Yeah, and we're trying to get information on that as we speak.
Yeah, whether that's the case or not, I find it absolutely shocking that we still have to have this conversation a quarter way through the 21st century in this province, that we're kicking the can down the road about replacing that institution down there. That's been there since, I think, the American Civil War era. So there seems to be no political will to get a new institution built there, whether it's the Liberals or the Conservatives. It's just it just gets put by the wayside. It's not politically a popular subject to raise, especially now we're heading into a provincial election in the fall, likely. And the federal government has earmarked, I think it was $150 million, if I stand to be corrected, towards the building of a new penitentiary. And there's just crickets, even on that issue. Where is that money? We rarely hear anything about the building of a new penitentiary now. We have a new Minister of Justice and Attorney General, Dr. Haggie. So I'd like to know from him and his department, what is the status of that penitentiary and decommissioning that institution as it exists now, and the building of a new premises, you know?
Yeah, it's extraordinary that it's taken this long to get where we are, and I understand there may be some work that's ongoing at HMP that this might have led to. I'm not sure yet, but we're getting more information. But it's extraordinary. I can remember when they were talking about putting a prison in Bell Island. I can remember when they were talking about putting a prison in Harbour Grace. I can remember when they were talking about putting a prison up here on Kenmount Road, out in the East End. It goes on and on and on, and yet nothing concrete has happened. We had this RFP that got put out, and bids came back way too high. Put out another RFP. It's just extraordinary.
Yeah, it's just being kicked. The can is being kicked down the road here. This is being used as a political football, and it seems like there's just political apathy. That nobody, irrespective of political party, nobody cares, and I care. You know, I care because it could be my neighbor, it could be a member of my family, it could be me or you or anybody else that finds yourself down there or in an institution on remand in a penitentiary or a prison.
Or somebody suffering a mental health or an addictions issue that ends up in HMP and requires greater attention and care than simply being put in a cell.
You're absolutely right. And, everybody out there listening to this conversation needs to be reminded that about 80% of people who are on remand, not only in this province, but across the country, but 80% of the people who are being incarcerated right now have not been convicted of any crime. You know, there are people who have been convicted, but the vast majority of people are awaiting trial or have been charged and are going through a bail hearing or some other process before trial takes place or before a plea agreement is struck between the Crown and the defence. And these people are legally innocent under our Constitution. You know, that could be you or me tomorrow down there. There before the grace of God go I. So we need to have an effective, functioning criminal justice system, and the infrastructure, the prisons and penitentiaries and the like, are essential to the proper functioning of the criminal justice system. It's not just about hiring more police officers and law enforcement and tougher penalties and more judges and more court time. People who are, convicted of crimes and sent to prison, they need to be in hygienic, safe environments. That's not too much to ask. You're not looking for a five-star hotel. Something that's safe, that's fit for human habitation, and that place is not.
As do the workers who are entrusted in their care and attention.
Absolutely, it's an occupational health and safety issue too, and other people who are volunteer down there, clergy and other support staff. So you're absolutely right.
Colin, I appreciate your call. We look forward to an update on this. Our newsroom is working diligently to get some factual information on it. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
We're up to news time now with Sarah Strickland.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
And if you have anything you'd like to raise on the show or comment on anything that's already been raised, now is your opportunity to give us a call. We're going now to Kevin. You're on the air. Hi, Kevin.
Oh, hi there. It's Evan, actually.
Oh, sorry about that, Evan.
Aaron.
Go ahead.
Did anyone else talk about the Terry Fox stuff after yesterday?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're referencing.
Buddy called in. Just a sec. I got the radio on.
That's better.
Yeah. Buddy called in it was early, like 9:30 or so, I think, and he was talking about the Terry Fox Memorial down by the waterfront here in Johns, and how inaccessible it is, mostly. And then also just how we're not really playing it up as we could, I love the idea of renaming the airport. That's a great idea. I know what you're saying. It's tucked away, isn't it? And it's a horrible walk. You got to walk by that unless you like the salt pile.
Right.
I mean, I do. So I go.
But yeah, it doesn't.
Especially for tourists, right?
Yeah, it doesn't really invite you to go down there. I have to be honest. As long as I've been living in St. John's, I have never been down there.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, they put the monument there because that is the place where he dipped his prosthetic foot into the water. So it's an important spot. But
yes, that's what I always tell people. Like that's where you get started the freaking run. My God.
And with this being the 40th anniversary, just imagine where has the time gone. One would think that it would be better demarcated, or there'd be a clearer path, or people would have no issues knowing where the Terry Fox Monument is.
40 years, is it? 85? Is it 85 or 40?
Is it 40 or 45? I'm not sure. I thought it was the early 80s.
Yeah, that's 45. Yeah, it was 1980. Yeah, 45.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
45 years. Just imagine, almost 50 years. It's extraordinary and such an important thing for all Canadians to remember and rally around. He's one of our icons.
Nodding my head, absolutely. He was just behind Tommy Douglas when they did the Greatest Canadian. Remember that?
Yeah, for sure. Such an
the
important figure in the Canadian mindset, and why we don't.
Modern hero, right?
Yeah, and why we don't have more there to let people know that that's down there is extraordinary. Yeah.
And then can I just say one or two other quick things about that, and then I'll leave you be. Patty, they mentioned ownership of they mentioned the city, right? The city should really do something about that. I suppose it would be them who would put up the signs, but the actual museum is owned by the Port Authority, which is like a quasi-federal organization. It's under Transport Canada, but I've never had any luck really finding much out about them. Actually, I really dug into it at one point. If anyone wants to call, maybe they work there or something, that'd be cool.
I think it's under the jurisdiction of the Port Authority. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is. They put up this fence. I don't know when they put that up, but you can't actually go to the water there, and that's probably the worst thing about the museum, in my opinion. Because you're I'll go to the water, just like Terry did. Oh, there's a big fence there now.
Watch your language now, Kevin.
I'll get out of here. It's gonna keep happening. Thank you for your time there, Linda.
Okay, I appreciate it, Kevin. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Yeah, you got to be careful now. I understand. It gets frustrating sometimes, but you got to watch your language. We're going now to Gary. You're on the air. Hi, Gary.
Yeah, I'm up in CBS, up by the fire hall in Kelligrews, and there's a police presence here. There's about 7 police cars, and the police are out. They have rifles and all their gear on, and it looks like they're trying to get in through a door of the house. Just letting people know that they should probably stay away from this area. All right,
Gary, you say the location is where again?
It's across the street, across the road from the fire hall in Kelligrews. And there's 6 or 7 cop cars there. There's police everywhere. They're all carrying rifles and with their armor on and whatnot. So there's something serious happening there. So I would advise people maybe to stay away from that area.
All right. I appreciate the notification, Gary. We'll try and get some information now from the RNC as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we hope to speak with you. And we're back. We're going to go now to the caller on line 1. Hello.
Hello, Linda.
Yes.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm very good, mate. You look good. Linda, I'm in Marystown, and I haven't got a family doctor. And there's a gentleman phoned in from up around St. Lawrence over that way somewhere, talking about he went to St. Lawrence Hospital, and he was told that he couldn't see a doctor because he didn't have a family doctor.
That's what he said he was told, yeah.
Yeah, now, if I want to see a doctor, I'm going to the Buren Peninsula Health Care Center, right?
Okay.
In Buren.
Yeah.
Now, if people told me here in Marystown, excuse me, if you go to St. Lawrence, you'll get in a lot quicker to see a doctor than you would in Buren Peninsula, in the Buren Peninsula Health Care Center. But seems if I went to St. Lawrence and I went into the clinic and this secretary said, well, you've got a family doctor? I said, no, but she said, you can't see a doctor. So that's a wasted trip for me to go to St. Lawrence, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a rigmarole, isn't it?
Yes. But that's what people are telling me in Marystown. You go to St. Lawrence and you don't wait extra long time to wait to get in to see a doctor. And I don't know if you got a family doctor or not. It don't matter, according to this gentleman. Okay?
All right. Well, caller, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Now, Linda, it's no good for me to get on an open line to call in to try to get roads done in Marystown or Buren or Spencer or Rockharbor, right? What you got to do, like I does, I don't phone open line talking about roads. It's no good. It's not going to help you. I don't think it is. Well, what I does is phones my MHA, whatever district I want the roads done, and I get answers from one MHA's office for sure. But other than that, it's useless to phone open line. You might get your message across, but I don't think anything you want to be done with it.
Well, it certainly helps raise the topic and gets people talking and makes governments aware of what's going on out there.
Should be a lot of people phoning in if that's the case.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, caller, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
But anyway, you keep up your good work and have a nice weekend.
All right, same to you.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye. We're going to go now to Bill. You're on the air. Hi, Bill.
Hello?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Linda. How are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you?
Happy Friday. Oh, great. Actually, beautiful morning. Fog's finally lifting. I'll get to the point, actually, because it's such a beautiful morning out in my RV. So I've just been the last few weeks trying to talk to enforcement officers and stuff like this. I live in CBS. I have a motorhome, which I travel around the island. I'm a single guy kind of thing. I travel around the island all the time, and I camp. But I've been given a notice to move by enforcement officers. So I've been informed by enforcement officers in this province that it's illegal to camp on Crown land. So I understood, it's public land, people hunt, people fish, people hike, people whatever, but it's illegal to actually camp on Crown land. Now, if you go on a lot of websites and stuff that promoting Newfoundland tourism and all of that and boondocking, which is wild camping and stuff, it promotes, Newfoundland has 95% of its land is Crown land utilized for camping and adventures and all that. But in actual fact, the minute you park a tent, motorhome, RV, anywhere in Crown land, you're actually in violation, according to them, of the Lands Act, Section 29. So in some provinces, they do have restrictions on camping. Like in BC, there's some boondocking laws. In Ontario, it's 21 days. I know we're not in Ontario. We're in Newfoundland. But there is no law that I can find, including superintendent over here. Actually, he's in St. John's up in Cornerbrook, but with the enforcement officers, that there is no law that anybody know of that limits the amount of time you're camping. So their point is, oh, you've been there too long. Well, I said, well, tell me how long I'm allowed to be there. And they'll just turn around and say, well, you got 30 days. No, the 30 days underneath the Act, underneath the Lands Act, 29.1 of the Lands Act, it says that you have 30 days to vacate a property. Now, what they defined, what the Act actually, in my opinion, what they're looking for, there's no rules or laws around using public Crown land. I can't find it anyway. So what they've done to limit the amount of people that's camping or using Crown land for camping activities or anything else is they found an article under Section 29.1 of the Lands Act that states they not allowed to erect, place, or build a structure on Crown land, which I understand. It's not your land to own. You can't build a shed or a cabin. But underneath the definition of a structure, it does define an RV, a tent, or motorhome. So, or tent structure. So in my, I'm not a lawyer, but in my interpretation of that, if you read the whole Act, not just that one line, that whole Act talks about the leasing and granting of Crown land to citizens or, residents of Canada or Newfoundland, whatever the case may be. But they're picking one article to say, no, you can't put your motorhome there because it's considered a structure. Now, the motorhome I have is a licensed vehicle, insured. I can move it at any time. I'm going to dumping stations. I'm coming back and forth, but I'm staying next to a pond, doing a little bit of fishing. I have a residence nearby, but I'm not allowed to do it. So I've been given 30 days notice to move, which ends on the 14th of June. If I don't move, I've been talking to superintendents. They will charge me for being on Crown land without permission. So I just want to let people know that you're not allowed to camp. According to them, you are not legally allowed to camp on Crown land in Newfoundland. So what's your opinion on that, Linda?
How long have you been there?
I don't know, a few weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. I come back and forth. I'm not here, 24 hours a day. I do leave and I empty my septic or whatever and come back. But again, so you're asking how long I've been there. So someone tell me the law how long I'm allowed to camp.
Because did they not indicate to you were there too long?
Yes.
I guess that what they're afraid of, I suppose, is a squatter?
With squatters, you got to be here for like 10 years.
Right.
Right. Squatters law used to be 20. I've reviewed this law in total. Squatters law used to be 20 and reduced it to 10. So what I was saying to them is, you tell me a law that says how long I'm allowed to use this Crown land as a resident, as a citizen, as multi-generational citizen, how long I'm allowed to utilize this Crown land for my personal or recreational use. There is no law. So they're picking a law of the Lands Act to say that I can't erect, place, or build a structure.
But was the law not amended not too long ago to prevent things like gravel pit camping?
Well, that's what at one point they had stated. But again, it comes down to there's no amendments right now. No, if you read the law, unless there's something new, if you go underneath the government website, you can look underneath the Lands Act and go right down through Section 29 of what you're allowed to do, and basically just talks about erecting a structure. So, I own Crown land actually out on the Burin Peninsula, which used to be Crown land, sorry. It was granted to me. So, I understand. And the whole Act, though, the whole interpretation of the Act, or the scope of the Act, would be people that's trying to possess or legally possess Crown land, without a grant or a lease or permission like Light and Power has or whatever the case may be. So, my point is I'm not here permanently. I'm not residing here. I'm actually cleaned up here. I'm not making a mess or anything like that. So, what's the timeline I'm allowed to use Crown land? So it comes down to 0. So apparently, if someone gets off in a motorhome from Ontario, driving across the province, if they don't utilize a park, provincially or private, and they pull on the side of the road, technically they're in violation the minute they park.
Well, what and I'm just putting this out there, is it possible that, the attention that you're receiving may have been sparked by complaints?
Absolutely. I'm not doing nothing wrong, but it just, sure enough, I'm sure someone's made a complaint. There are other RVs in the area, and people have been here, camping. Got back. Maybe some people are here for the full summer. I don't know. But I don't see any issues like anybody doing blocking the waterway or anything like that. Yeah, I'm sure it's sparked by complaint, but what I'm stating is, what's the grounds for me for the government to say I can't use public land? Right. So when as I went up through the chain of command, as I spoke to one officer to come here, then the supervisor officer come here, then I contacted Cornerbrook, then I contacted, I can't remember his name, and it went right up, and I don't want to mention no names because I don't know if I'm allowed to, but it went right up to the superintendent, which wasn't very nice to me. In the meantime, told me, well, because I said to him, can I come back? No, he said, we do, but charge us. I said, so on the order you made me to move, it doesn't define exactly where, it just says a certain area. So I said, can I come back and another time later on the summer, park in a different spot? He said, you do what you want. He said, you have a good day, sir, and he hung up. That was it. He didn't want to talk the item. He didn't want to.
Well, I suppose they've asked you repeatedly to leave, and you're saying no, and you want them to cite.
No. They haven't asked me repeatedly to leave. They give me. They gave me their notice, removal notice, which gives you 30 days, okay, to vacate Crown land. Okay? So they haven't asked me repeatedly. No, and I will leave. I will obey. I'm not going to break any laws. I'm going to obey. But what I want to let people know, and that's why I'm on open line this morning, is that you don't have a right to camp in this province. You have no legal right as a citizen to utilize Crown land for camping, and that's right out of the supervisor's mouth for this province. So the minute you park any type of recreational vehicle that you plan to stay in, and it is a big, broad definition of what they consider a structure, so you don't have that right. But yet, so what gives you the right then to hike or fish or, So you don't have any right? So just the government owns the land, we don't as a public own the land? Isn't that why it's called public land?
Bill, you're raising a good question. We'll see what others have to say. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Linda. I appreciate it. You have a great weekend, and thank you for the time. Let me to express my opinions.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
We're going to go now to VOCM News reporter. Hello, Richard Duggan. Hello, Richard.
Hello, Linda.
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good.
So you're down at HMP. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so there is a wall that's down, but it hasn't crumbled. It is part of what appears to be a construction project. There's construction fencing that has been set up. There's crews going back and forth. There's dump trucks that have been going back and forth in the short time that I've been here. So that's the lay of the land right now. It looks like they got a section of wall that's kind of torn down, and another section that's just beyond that that's kind of dug out a little bit. I'm not quite sure what the purpose of all this construction is, but that's what it is. It's a construction project that's happening currently at HMP.
All right. So, and the purpose, as you say, for that, we haven't got that answer yet. We're waiting on justice officials to let us know.
Absolutely.
All right. I appreciate that, Richard, for the update. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
All right. Bye-bye. Richard Duggan there in front of HMP. We're going to go now to Robin. You're on the air. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm just calling, actually, from Bill's call. This is a new regulation that was added last year to the Lands Act, and it was added after Tes City was taken down, and as a way of preventing unhoused people from setting up any tents of any structures on any Crown land to prevent them from sleeping outside. And this was a regulation that was added, in May of last year. And it's undefined in terms of time because it's not so much about squatters as it is about managing the homeless population.
I see, but it's been extended here because a complaint was made, I suppose.
Well, you can't. You really shouldn't have certain rules for certain people and situations. A lot of that exists here anyway. But that's one situation. It'd be hard for them to defend it, if they allow one person to spend time there. So, but unfortunately, if you are considered unhoused and you put a tent up anywhere within city grounds, you're not given the opportunity to move at your leisure. You are forced to move immediately and take down your tent. And if you don't, they will take it down for you.
All right, Robin, I appreciate the bit of context there. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thanks.
Alrighty. Bye-bye. Bye. And quickly now, before we go to break, we're going to go to Irma Gerd. Hello, Irma.
Hello, Linda. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm calling in to advertise an event that we're doing tonight at the LSPU Hall downtown. We're going to be doing a drag film roast. So we'll be watching a movie. It's from 1989. It's a terrible movie. It's called Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death.
I love it.
And myself, Irma Gerd, and my friend Ida Kumquat are going to be ribbing along with the movie as we watch it, stopping to joke at how terrible it is. It stars Newfoundland's own Shannon Tweed, and also Bill Maher. It's insane. It's like a take on Heart of Darkness, making fun of people who make fun of feminism. It's insane, and you got to watch it. It's one of the best, worst movies I've ever seen. We're watching it at 8 o'clock at the LSPU Hall tonight. There's going to be prizes. So Anderson's Meat downtown, the butcher shop, has donated definitely not human meat, which is such a good twist on a prize. So I invite anyone out listening to this today to come tonight. It's going to be so much fun. It's a fundraiser for the hall, so there's a sliding scale for ticket price. Screening tonight, 8 o'clock.
Well, it sounds
Hall,
like
be there.
It sounds like a hoot. One of my favorite shows of all time is Mystery Science Theater 2000. So this is...
Oh, it's going to be very much like that.
Right on. Well, that's great. Irma, sounds like a real good time. That's at the LSPU Hall tonight?
Yes, it is.
What
Myself
time?
and Ida Kumquat, 8 o'clock, watching Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death.
Okay, with a Newfoundland connection. That's fabulous. Irma,
absolutely.
Thank you so much for letting us know. Hopefully you get a big crowd there tonight.
Yes, I hope so too. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
Later.
Bye-bye. I tried to jot that down right quickly. Cannibal Women in the Avocado Jungle of Death. I love it. Starring Shannon Tweed. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we hope to hear from you.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
And we're back on VOCM Open Line. Linda Swain in for Patty Daly, who is off today. We have a little update on that situation one of our callers raised with us this morning concerning some kind of a police operation in Conception Bay South. Well, apparently it's related to a wanted person. RNC arrived on the scene on the CBS highway around 10:30 this morning. Some attempts were made to establish communication with the person inside, and they are now in custody. It lasted about 15 minutes total. So that's where that stands, and no doubt we'll have a little update on that later on today. In the meantime, Sarah referenced that story that has gripped the consciousness of Canadians right across the country, and that's surrounding those two missing children, Lily and Jack Sullivan in Nova Scotia. Just an extraordinary case. Very few answers as to what's going on there. The parents originally notified police that the two children had gone missing, apparently slipped out through a door that, and they didn't realize they were gone until they were gone. Very extraordinary circumstance there. It's raised a lot of speculation about the nature of this. Very extensive searches were carried out with no sign or trace of these two little kids. I think they're 7 and 4, if I'm not mistaken. It's really gripped a lot of people, and everywhere I go, people are talking about it. And I know, as I said, there's been lots of speculation, a lot of people saying, there's something about this doesn't feel right. These actions or perceived actions don't seem to add up when it comes to certain observations surrounding the case. But I suppose it will remain to be seen what comes out of it. And there's just something about it that makes you feel like when the news does come out, it's going to be something that think not a lot of people were expecting. I don't know. It just something about it feels odd. Anyway, if you have any thoughts on that, you're certainly welcome to give us a call. But keeping in mind that an active police investigation is still underway and a lot of leads being traced there. I noticed the story the other day that some trail cameras were being, gone over for a time period going well beyond when the children were reported missing. So it's a real head scratcher. And even among the experts who are used to these kinds of things are saying that something about it is very different. So if you have any thoughts on that, you're certainly welcome to give us a call. The postal strike is a surprise to hear that nobody is really calling about that. But we're kind of in a limbo, aren't we? It's not a strike, but it's labor action, if you know what I'm saying. So for all intents and purposes, postal workers are working to rule, i.e. they will not be working any overtime. The negotiations are still underway. Canada Post put forward a new offer this week, and in an extraordinary move, they put it out publicly because, that's a tactic that's used as well to try and no doubt sway public opinion in these matters. And when you see the offers that are made in these kinds of situations, it does tend to sway the public because some people will react and say, well, this is, a bargaining tactic. And then others will say, well, I don't get those kinds of benefits, or I don't, get that kind of a salary, or I haven't seen that kind of an increase. So it does tend to resonate with the public. Is it a tactic or a move that should be used? I'll leave that up to you to decide. If you have any thoughts on that, you're certainly welcome to give us a call. I'll tell you what, we're going to take a very short break. We had quite a few calls on the line. Some dropped off for one reason or another, but if you were trying to get through earlier and you had trouble doing so, now is your opportunity to give us a call. We're going to take a short break, and hopefully when we come back, we'll speak to you in the last few minutes of the show. And we're back on VOCM Open Line. We are going to go now to Sarah. You're on the air. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Henshins?
Henshins, yeah.
Oh, excellent. What's on your mind?
We are full on busy, planning for the upcoming 2026 race. We've been back in office and steady, trying to recruit some new board members, move along with opening registration and planning for race rules.
And of course, let's backtrack a little bit. You are the manager for Cane's Quest.
I am, yes.
Right. So this is what we're talking about, the next Cane's Quest, which is when?
We are planning for March of 2026.
Excellent. So, because you were looking at the possibility of doing it every year. Is that correct?
No, we did do it every year for the last two races. One of them in 2023 was because we had a little bit of slowdown with COVID. And then right after that, we had to cancel because of weather. So we ran another one in 2024. So it's been back-to-back races since then. So that would give you the every year process. But we are moving back into doing the race every 2 years. Definitely more helpful when we're coming to planning and executing things.
Yeah, it gives you the time to do it because it is a monumental effort, is it not?
It sure is. Yeah, there's a lot of work going into planning and just doing assessments and making sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
Yeah, and that's the exciting part. The boring part is just the organizational part of things. So I understand you're looking for new board members.
We are, yeah. Like I said, with 2 years running back-to-back races with no real break in between, we were really, really steady with planning and bringing everything together. So it just kind of left us with a little bit of time there where we didn't get to focus on recruiting new members. And I think now we're realizing how important it is just to have as many heads as possible for planning and bringing everything together. You know, there's so many knowledgeable people out there, and I think it'd be beneficial for Canes to have as many as possible.
For sure. So if somebody is interested on becoming a member of the board for Canes Quest, how can they do so?
The best way to do that would be to make an email, just kind of stating why you're interested, you know, what you can bring to the table, if you have any current experience or past experiences sitting on boards or involved in the race, and then send that email to info@canesquest.com, and the board will soon start doing the recruitment process.
So when do you hope to have this in place?
Right now, the call for directors is out. I think that was posted yesterday. We're hoping for the next 2 weeks or so to start being able to close off the application process. I guess that would really depend on how many applicants come forward and, you know, if we're still waiting for a few more seats to get filled.
And what can a member of the board expect? What kind of duties or activities would they be involved in?
We have quite a few different areas that we have our board members involved in. A lot of that stuff is technology, marketing, sponsorship, could be emergency response, route planning, helping with special events or volunteers. And it really does depend on you know, how much time is required for each and every one of those things. But there's lots of involvement. We're pretty steady with communication, so we spend a lot of time together. But yeah, I mean, you'd be involved in pretty much every aspect of the race, which is wonderful.
And what's interest looking like for the 2026 race?
We're pretty fairly new with opening that line of communication with the public about opening registration. That came out yesterday. So far, though, messages have been rolling in. We've had lots of phone calls, lots of emails, and so far it seems really positive. It sounds like a lot of people are just kind of waiting on the edge to get that registration page open.
I think it's amazing that you're not only getting a lot of interest from people in Labrador, which is fabulous, and why wouldn't you? Because so many people love the outdoors and love their snowmobiles when it comes to traveling around in Labrador. But you're getting it from across the country, the continent, and across the pond.
It's crazy. The enthusiasts out there are all coming forward, and we love to see it because, of course, as much as we love having all our contestants in Labrador, we love to be able to invite people from all over the country, all over the world. And we think it's such a great opportunity to bring people together, you know?
It is. It's exciting to see all these different people coming together for a shared love of adventure. And I understand that the people of Labrador themselves really embrace all of this. I know there was a group of young kids, you know, that were taking on the Finnish flag and all that sort of thing, sort of like adopting teams, if you will.
Yeah. It's the up-and-coming teams, I'd like to say.
Yeah, for sure. So, Sarah, once again, people can get a hold of you how?
The best way right now would be through info@canesquest.com.
And is there a deadline for, expressions of interest, so to speak?
I'd like to say right now it's going to be roughly about 2 weeks. And if, again, we still feel we need to keep that open, we'll probably go for about 4 weeks max.
And do you have to be local?
No, absolutely not.
So you can be a member of the board if you're in St. John's or Toronto?
Yeah, we currently do have a couple of people that are not local right now sitting on the board.
Great. So I guess a lot of it's done virtually as well.
It is. Yeah, we've been able to make that access super easy now with all the technology and stuff. It's pretty open to anybody at this point.
And what attracted you to it?
My family was racing in 2018, and I'm not from here. I'm from Ontario, so I flew in to see the race. And shortly after that, 2019, I moved here and, of course, was addicted right away, had to jump in. And I've been working with Canes Quest ever since 2019.
That's amazing. You're a convert and a believer.
That's right.
And a Labradorian by the sounds of it.
Absolutely.
Not born and raised, but proud.
That's right. You got it.
Excellent. Well, Sarah Hengens, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
You too.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye. And when I think about Cane's Quest, I think about a lot of things, actually, because it's an exciting competition. But I think about Jordan Brown, who's stepping down now. Last day in the House of Assembly was yesterday. Pretty emotional, actually. Jim Dinn got kind of teary-eyed, I think. But he was such an avid enthusiast for Cane's Quest, and maybe now that he's taking time away from political life, he'll be able to, get more involved in that sort of thing. There you go. I'm sort of strong-arming you, Jordan, to get involved in the board of directors, maybe. Anyway, fabulous event, and so glad to hear that it's garnering even more attention these days. So that's what Sarah has had to say, and if you do have interest, by the way, info@canesquest.com. And we were speaking a little bit earlier about the postal strike and the situation there, and the union is, our idea, I think, everyday people's idea of a strike is a work stoppage, but there's all kinds of labor dispute mechanisms available to unions and employers to, try to influence or deliver their message in a particular way. And in this case, they're kind of working the rule. I don't think that's a term that people use anymore, but I do think it's a term that people do understand. In this case, they're saying they're no longer going to be working any overtime hours, which is, from what I understand, vital to keeping the Postal Service running smoothly. So whether or not they take that action to another level remains to be seen. It looks like talks are underway and ongoing to try and reach a deal in this very prolonged labor dispute, but it remains to be seen what will happen next, and no doubt we will keep you informed of any developments there. It does put a lot of things in limbo, if you know what I'm saying. If you're a small business owner, for instance, do you start shipping out now with the possibility that a work stoppage could be in play, in the not too distant future, and then your order or whatever it is left undelivered? It puts business in particular in kind of a tricky situation. It's one thing if you're waiting on a check or a bill in the mail. There are lots of electronic alternatives to that these days. But if you rely on the Postal Service to serve your customers, for instance, by delivering the goods that you supply, then it puts you in a pretty tricky situation. Anyway, if you have any thoughts on that, you're certainly welcome to give us a call, but maybe not today. It may be next week with Patty Daly, so stay tuned for that. The weather forecast not looking the best these days. What's going on, Sarah Strickland? I don't understand what's going on with the weather these days.
We do
Awfully
have sunshine,
cold.
though.
Yeah, it's
today.
starting to brighten up.
But it looks like rain drizzle and fog is going to stick around again next week. Except in Labrador, I'm seeing temperatures in the 20s.
Well, of course, because it's Labrador, and that's what they get. They get actual seasons. We get kind of, is it going to be summer? Is it going to be spring? Is it going to be winter? We're not sure.
But then it slaps you in the face, that 20-degree day.
Yeah, or 30.
Yeah.
Ba-boom, right?
Yeah, you'll get that little heat wave, and then it'll cool off again. Yep.
Well, it looks like we're having one of those springs. I actually said that to my husband the other day. It looks like we're having one of those springs. Anyway, whatever way you like to enjoy those kinds of things, I hope you do this weekend. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks to Dave for negotiating there behind the glass. He's waving at me. And thanks, Sarah. You're up next with the news. I see you busy preparing. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye for now.